Karen claimed I was squatting in my own home, then called 911 like she owned the street. The air was thick with the scent of blooming jasmine as I stood on my porch, coffee mug in hand, watching the sunrise paint the sky in hues of pink and gold. My little house on Maple Street was my sanctuary, a fixer-upper I'd poured my heart into for 3 years. Every creaky floorboard, every freshly painted wall, every flower in the garden was a testament to my sweat and stubborn hope. But that morning, as I sipped my coffee, I had no idea that my quiet life was about to be upended by a woman named Karen, whose name would soon become synonymous with chaos in my world. It started with a shadow moving across my lawn. I squinted, assuming it was a neighbor out for a jog, but the figure stopped at the edge of my property, hands on hips, staring at my house like it owed her money. She was middle-aged, blonde bob perfectly coiffed, wearing a pastel tracksuit that screamed, "I manage the HOA in my sleep." Her eyes locked onto mine, and I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the morning breeze. "Can I help you?" I called out, keeping my tone friendly but firm. She marched up my driveway, her sneakers slapping the pavement with purpose. "You need to leave," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "This is private property." I blinked, caught off guard. "Excuse me? This is my house." She scoffed, folding her arms. "Oh, please. I've lived on this street for 15 years, and I know exactly who owns this place. It's been empty for months. You're squatting." I laughed, thinking it was a misunderstanding. "Ma'am, I bought this house 3 years ago. I have the deed, the mortgage, the whole deal. I'm not squatting." Her eyes narrowed, and she pulled out her phone, tapping the screen with manicured nails. "Don't lie to me. I know a squatter when I see one. I'm calling 911. "Wait, what?" My coffee mug nearly slipped from my hand. "You're calling the police because I'm standing on my own porch?" But she was already on the phone, her voice rising to a dramatic pitch. "Yes, hello, 911. There's a trespasser at 142 Maple Street. Some woman claiming she lives here, but I know she's lying. You need to send someone immediately." I stood frozen, the absurdity of the situation sinking in. This woman Karen, as I'd later learn, had just accused me of breaking into my own home. My neighbors started peeking out from behind curtains, drawn by the commotion. My heart raced, not from fear, but from the sheer audacity of it all. I set my mug down and stepped closer, trying to reason with her. "Ma'am, my name's Ellie. I can show you my ID, my bills, anything you want. This is my home." Karen waved me off, still talking into her phone. "She's getting aggressive now. Please hurry." Aggressive? I was in my pajamas, holding a mug with a cartoon cat on it. The only thing aggressive was her entitlement. Minutes later, a police cruiser pulled up, lights flashing. 2 officers stepped out, a young guy who looked barely old enough to drive, and an older woman with a no-nonsense vibe. Karen practically sprinted to them, pointing at me like I was a wanted criminal. "That's her. She's the squatter." I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "Officers, this is a misunderstanding. I own this house. I have proof inside of me: deed, my driver's license, utility bills. Can I go get them?" The older officer, whose badge read Sergeant Torres, nodded. "Let's see it. But stay calm, all right." Karen gasped. "You're letting her go inside? What if she's got weapons or drugs in there?" I shot her a look. "Lady, the most dangerous thing in my house is a half-eaten bag of stale chips." The younger officer snorted, quickly covering it with a cough. Sergeant Torres gave him a side-eye, but gestured for me to lead the way. I walked inside, hyper-aware of Karen's glare burning into my back. My living room was a cozy mess book stacked on the coffee table, a blanket draped over the couch, and my cat, Muffin, lounging on the windowsill. I grabbed a folder from my desk, filled with every document I could think of: the deed, my mortgage statements, even a photo of me signing the closing papers. "Here," I said, handing the folder to Sergeant Torres. "This is my house." She flipped through the papers, her expression unreadable. Karen hovered nearby, craning her neck to see. "Those could be fake," she insisted. "Anyone can print documents these days." Sergeant Torres raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, these look legitimate. We'll verify them, but you need to step back." Karen's face reddened. "This is outrageous. I'm trying to protect our neighborhood, and you're taking her side?" I couldn't help it. I laughed. "Protect the neighborhood? From me drinking coffee on my own porch?" The younger officer, whose badge read Officer Daniels, smirked again but stayed quiet. Sergeant Torres handed me back my folder. Looks like everything checks out, Miss Harper. We'll run a quick check to confirm, but I don't see an issue here. Karen threw her hands up. This is unbelievable. I'm calling my lawyer. As the officers walked back to their cruiser, I thought that was the end of it. A weird morning, a story to laugh about later. But Karen wasn't done. Oh no, she was just getting started. By noon, my phone was buzzing with notifications. Someone had posted on the neighborhood Facebook group, and it wasn't hard to guess who. The post, written by Karen S., was a 500-word manifesto about suspicious activity at 142 Maple Street, complete with a blurry photo of me on my porch, looking like a deer in headlights. She'd tagged half the neighborhood, claiming I was part of a squatting ring and warning everyone to lock their doors. The comments were a mix of confusion, support for Karen, and a few brave souls pointing out that she might be wrong. One comment, from a user named Maple Mom, read, "Ellie's lived there for years. She fixed up that house herself. What's this nonsense?" I wanted to scream, but instead, I called my best friend, Jamie, who lived 2 streets over. "You're not gonna believe this," I said, pacing my kitchen. "Some lady named Karen called the cops on me for living in my own house." Jamie's laugh was so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "Oh my God, Ellie, you've got a Karen? Like a real one? This is gold." "It's not funny," I groaned, though I was already smiling. "She's slandering me online now. What do I do?" "Lean into it," Jamie said. "Post your own story. Call her out. Make it funny, not bitter. People love a good clapback." So I did. I wrote a post titled, "Apparently I'm squatting in my own house," laying out the whole ridiculous encounter with as much humor as I could muster. I included a photo of Muffin lounging on the deed for good measure. By evening, my post had more likes than Karen's, and the comments were brutal. "Karen needs a hobby," one read. Another, "Ellie, your cat's got more property rights than Karen's ego." I went to bed feeling vindicated, thinking I'd won. I was wrong. The next morning, I woke to a certified letter taped to my door. It was from Karen's lawyer, demanding I vacate the property within 48 hours or face legal action. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just a nosy neighbor anymore, this was war. I called Jamie again, and she showed up with coffee and a plan. "We're fighting this," she said. "But first, we're getting dirt on Karen." That's when we met Mr. Thompson, the twist I never saw coming. He was an elderly man who lived across the street, always tinkering in his garage. I'd waved at him 100 times, but never really talked. When Jamie and I knocked on his door, he invited us in, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "Heard about your Karen problem," he said, pouring us tea. "She's been a thorn in everyone's side for years. But I've got something you might want to see." He pulled out a dusty binder labeled Maple Street Chronicles. Inside were pages of handwritten notes, photos, and newspaper clippings all about Karen. Apparently, she'd been terrorizing the neighborhood for decades, filing complaints about kids' lemonade stands, reporting suspicious delivery trucks, even trying to sue a neighbor for planting the wrong kind of roses. But the real bombshell was a 1990s article about a property dispute. Karen had claimed her house belonged to someone else, only to lose spectacularly in court when the real owner produced ironclad proof. "She's got a pattern," Mr. Thompson said, tapping the binder. "She sees something she doesn't like. She makes it everyone's problem. But she's not invincible." Armed with this, Jamie and I devised a plan. I'd go to court if I had to, but first, I'd confront Karen publicly at the next HOA meeting. The neighborhood was buzzing, and I knew she'd be there, ready to play the victim. What I didn't expect was how far she'd go to win. The HOA meeting was packed, the community center buzzing with tension. Karen sat in the front row, her arms crossed, her lawyer at her side. I stood up, my heart pounding, and told my story. I held up my deed, my bills, even the photo of Muffin on the deed. The room erupted in murmurs, some supportive, some skeptical. Then Karen stood, her voice trembling with rehearsed outrage. "This woman is a liar. She's forging documents to steal that house." That's when Mr. Thompson shuffled to the front, his binder in hand. "Karen," he said, his voice calm but cutting, "you've done this before. 1997, the Miller property. You claimed it was yours, too. Remember how that ended?" The room went silent. Karen's face drained of color. Her lawyer whispered something, but she ignored him, her voice rising. That's irrelevant. This is different. Is it? Mr. Thompson held up the old article, passing it around. Seems like you've got a habit of picking fights you can't win. The crowd turned on her then, whispers turning to accusations. Karen stormed out, but not before vowing to make me pay. I thought I'd won again. I was wrong again. 2 days later, my garden was destroyed. My beloved jasmine, my roses, my little herb patch torn up, poisoned with weed killer. A note was pinned to my door. Leave or lose more. I knew it was Karen, but I had no proof. The police couldn't do anything without evidence, and the neighborhood was too scared to take sides. Jamie urged me to fight, but I was tired. My home didn't feel like mine anymore. I started looking for a new place, my heart breaking with every listing I scrolled through. I'd fought so hard for this house, but Karen had made it a battlefield. Then, one night, as I packed boxes, Mr. Thompson knocked on my door again. "Don't give up yet," he said. "I've got one more trick." He handed me a USB drive. Security footage from my garage camera. Caught someone sneaking onto your property the night your garden was trashed. My hands shook as I plugged the drive into my laptop. The grainy footage showed a figure in a hoodie, but the pastel tracksuit peeking out was unmistakable. It was Karen. The footage was grainy, but it was undeniable. Karen's pastel tracksuit glowed under the streetlights as she crept through my yard, a jug of weed killer in one hand and a pair of garden shears in the other. She moved with purpose, hacking at my jasmine, dousing my roses, and trampling my herb patch. My heart sank as I watched her destroy what I'd spent years nurturing. But beneath the grief, a spark of fury ignited. She'd gone too far, and now I had proof. I called Jamie immediately, my voice trembling with a mix of rage and relief. She did it. Karen trashed my garden, and Mr. Thompson's camera caught her. Jamie hooped so loudly I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "That's it, Ellie. We've got her. Send that footage to the police, and let's nail her to the wall." But I hesitated. Part of me wanted to storm over to Karen's house, bang on her door, and shove the evidence in her face. Another part, the part that was exhausted, that just wanted peace, wondered if this was worth it. Karen was a bully, but she was also a neighbor. Could I really take her to court? Ruin her life over flowers? Yet as I looked at the wreckage of my garden, the answer became clear. This wasn't just about flowers. It was about my home, my safety, my right to exist without being harassed. The next morning, I marched to the police station with the USB drive and a copy of Mr. Thompson's statement. Sergeant Torres was there, her face softening when she saw me. "Back so soon?" she asked, half smiling. "It's not over," I said, handing her the drive. "Karen vandalized my property. This is proof." Sergeant Torres watched the footage, her jaw tightening. "This is clear-cut vandalism. We'll bring her in for questioning. You want to press charges?" I nodded, my resolve hardening. "Yes, I'm done letting her walk all over me." What followed was a whirlwind. Karen was questioned, and though she denied everything at first, the evidence was too strong. She claimed she'd been protecting the neighborhood from my illegal occupation, but the police weren't buying it. They charged her with vandalism and trespassing, and a court date was set. The neighborhood buzzed with the news, and the Facebook group exploded again. My post about the incident, complete with a screenshot of Karen's tracksuit in the footage, went viral in our little community. People who'd stayed silent before now spoke up, sharing their own Karen stories. She'd bullied kids, harassed delivery drivers, even reported a neighbor's dog for barking too loudly. The tide had turned, and Karen was drowning in it. But victory didn't feel as sweet as I'd expected. Every time I stepped outside, I saw the ruins of my garden, a constant reminder of her spite. I tried to replant, but the soil was tainted with weed killer, and nothing would grow. Muffin sensed my mood, curling up in my lap as I sat on the porch, staring at the empty flower beds. Jamie kept me grounded, dragging me out for coffee or forcing me to laugh at her terrible puns, but the weight of it all lingered. The court date arrived a month later, and the community center was packed again, this time with a different energyless gossip, more reckoning. I sat in the front row, my folder of evidence ready, Jamie at my side. Karen walked in, her usual swagger gone, replaced by a nervous fidgeting. Her lawyer, a slick guy in a cheap suit, tried to paint her as a concerned citizen who'd made a mistake. But when the judge saw the footage, his expression said it all. Karen was found guilty of vandalism and trespassing, fined heavily, and ordered to pay for the damage to my property. She was also slapped with a restraining order, barring her from contacting me or coming near my house. As the gavel fell, I expected to feel triumphant. Instead, I felt hollow. Karen's face was a mask of humiliation, and for a fleeting moment, I saw something human in her flicker of shame, maybe even regret. But it vanished as she stormed out, muttering about appealing the decision. The crowd dispersed, some patting me on the back, others avoiding my eyes. Mr. Thompson gave me a nod, his binder tucked under his arm like a trophy. "You did good, kid," he said. "Don't let her take your spirit." I tried to hold on to that. I used the court-ordered restitution to hire a landscaper, who promised to revive my garden with new soil and hardier plants. Jamie threw a Karen-free zone party at my house, complete with a piñata shaped like a megaphone. We laughed, we danced, and for a night, I felt like I'd reclaimed my home. But the next morning, as I sipped my coffee on the porch, I noticed something new, a for sale sign in Karen's yard. She was leaving. Part of me was relieved to be out of my life, out of the neighborhood's hair. But another part wondered what had driven her to this point. Why was she so determined to control everything, to attack me for simply existing? I'd won, but at what cost? My garden was gone, my peace was fractured, and the neighborhood felt like a battleground. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end. A week later, I got my answer. Jamie called me at 7 a.m., her voice shaking. "Ellie, you need to see this. Check the Facebook group." Now, I opened my laptop, my heart pounding. Karen had posted again, but this time, it wasn't a rant. It was a video, filmed shakily on her phone. She stood in her living room, surrounded by packed boxes, her face pale and tear-streaked. "I'm leaving Maple Street," she said, her voice cracking. "You've all made it clear I'm not wanted. But before I go, I need to tell you the truth." What followed was a confession I never expected. Karen admitted to vandalizing my garden, but she went further. She claimed she'd been protecting the neighborhood because she'd lost everything years ago: her husband, her job, her sense of purpose. The house on Maple Street was all she had left, and she'd become obsessed with controlling the street, with making sure nothing changed. My arrival, my renovations, my life—I'd all threatened her fragile sense of order. "I was wrong," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry, Ellie. I'm sorry to all of you." The video ended, and the comments were a mix of shock, pity, and anger. Some called her a liar, others urged forgiveness. I didn't know what to feel. Her apology didn't erase the damage, but it cracked open a window into her world, a lonely, broken place I hadn't imagined. I wanted to hate her, but all I felt was a heavy, aching sadness. I showed the video to Mr. Thompson, hoping for his wisdom. He sighed, closing his binder. "People like Corinthi not evil, just lost. She lashed out because she's got nothing else. Doesn't make it right, but it makes it human." I nodded, but the weight didn't lift. I walked to my porch, staring at the new plants the landscaper had put into me, fragile things that might not survive the winter. Like me, they were trying to take root in a place that felt less certain now. Karen's house sold quickly, and a young family moved in, their laughter filling the street. The neighborhood moved on, but I couldn't. Every time I looked at my garden, I saw her shadow. Every time I heard a car slow down, I braced for another fight. Months passed, and my garden began to bloom again, slowly. The jasmine came back, stubborn as ever, and Muffin claimed the new herb patch as her throne. Jamie kept me laughing, Mr. Thompson kept me grounded, and the neighborhood settled into a quieter rhythm. But the scar remained. I'd fought for my home and won, but the victory was bittersweet. Karen was gone, but her story lingered, a reminder that even the worst of us are human, that pain can twist us into something we don't recognize. One evening, as I sat on my porch, a new neighbor stopped by, a woman named Lila, part of the family who'd bought Karen's house. She held a small potted plant, a peace lily, and smiled shyly. "I heard about what happened," she said. "I thought this might help your garden feel like yours again." I took the plant, my throat tight. "Thank you," I said, and for the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this was what healing looked like, not erasing the past, but planting something new. But the story doesn't end with hope. It ends with a question. Was I right to fight Karen, to expose her, to drive her out? Or was I just another player in a cycle of pain, pushing someone who was already broken? I don't know the answer. I fought for my home, my peace, my right to exist. But at what cost? Karen's video haunts me, her tears a mirror to my own doubts. Maybe we're all just trying to hold on to something, even if it means hurting someone else. What do you think? Was I right to stand my ground? Or should I have tried to understand Karen sooner? Share your thoughts. There's no easy answer, and I'd love to hear yours.